third party finally told your soulmate the real reason they came between you. My beloved child, something has finally been said that was never supposed to reach your soulmate's ears. For the longest time, your soulmate believed the third party came between you because of jealousy, confusion, or simple misunderstanding. But that was never the complete story. The truth finally surfaced when the third party could no longer keep the real reason hidden. And what they admitted changed the way your soulmate sees everything that happened between you. Don't skip, because the most surprising part isn't that they interfered, it's why they felt they had to. Your soulmate asked one simple question: why did you care so much about keeping us apart? There was silence. Then came an answer your soulmate never expected: because I could see what happened to you whenever that person came up. You became different. You became serious. And I knew that if you ever followed what you truly felt, I would no longer have the same place in your life. That sentence changed the entire atmosphere. Suddenly, every strange conversation, every piece of doubt, every moment when your soulmate was encouraged to pull away from you began connecting together. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this confession goes much deeper than anyone expected. What your soulmate realized next was even bigger. The third party wasn't simply reacting to you, they were reacting to the effect you had on your soulmate. Your name could change their expression. A memory of you could make them quiet. Even when they tried to move forward, something inside them kept returning to the connection they never fully understood. And the third party noticed it before your soulmate was ready to admit it. That is why little doubts kept appearing. Maybe you imagine the connection. Maybe they don't feel the same. Maybe you should forget them. But now your soulmate is looking back and realizing how many of those thoughts were planted during moments when they were emotionally uncertain. Don't skip. The revelation that followed made your soulmate question everything. The third party finally admitted, I thought if enough time passed, you would stop thinking about them. But you didn't. Your soulmate froze at those words, not because they were completely new, but because they confirmed something your soulmate had secretly known. Time had passed. Circumstances had changed. People had come and gone. Yet somehow, whenever your soulmate imagined the person who understood a part of them nobody else seemed to reach, their thoughts returned to you. And now they were being forced to confront the possibility that the distance between you was never proof that the connection meant nothing. But there is one final detail from this conversation that your soulmate cannot stop replaying, because the third party said something they had never admitted before. I knew you would eventually question everything I told you, because every time you tried to let them go, you found another reason to remember them. That was the moment your soulmate stopped defending the past. Something shifted inside them. They began asking themselves what they would have chosen without outside voices, without fear of being misunderstood, and without anyone telling them what your connection was supposed to mean. And the answer surprised even them. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is no longer asking why they once stepped away. They are asking a much more powerful question now. What if they had listened to their own heart from the beginning? The third party believed this confession would simply explain the past, but instead, it awakened something your soulmate had kept buried beneath silence. Now your soulmate is looking at you differently, not as someone they simply left behind, but as the person connected to a choice they may never have truly finished making. And what they decide after realizing this could become the turning point nobody around them saw coming. Something changed inside your soulmate the moment that confession ended, because suddenly the past no longer looked the way they had been taught to see it. They started remembering conversations they had almost forgotten, moments when they wanted to reach toward you, only for another voice to make them question themselves. But now those memories were returning with completely different meaning. Your soulmate began wondering, how much of my decision was actually mine? And that question would not leave them alone. Don't skip, because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The third party thought revealing the truth would finally close the subject, but it did exactly the opposite. Your soulmate became more curious about you than they had been in a long time. They remembered the way your presence once made ordinary moments feel important. They remembered conversations that stayed in their mind long after they ended. Most importantly, they remembered how difficult it had been to completely disconnect from the thought of you. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate finally understood that the third party had noticed something before anyone openly acknowledged it. Whenever your soulmate tried to convince themselves that you meant nothing extraordinary, their own emotions kept contradicting that story. Then came the detail that changed everything again. Your soulmate asked, "Was there ever a moment when you knew I still cared?" The third party hesitated before admitting there had been many. They remembered your soulmate suddenly becoming quiet when someone mentioned something connected to you. They remembered your soulmate comparing new experiences to memories involving you without even realizing it. And they remembered one particular moment when your soulmate almost reached out, only to change their mind after another conversation filled their head with uncertainty. That realization landed differently now. Your soulmate was no longer looking at the connection through someone else's interpretation. They were finally examining their own memories. And underneath all the confusion was something remarkably consistent. You had never completely disappeared from their inner world. Don't skip, because your soulmate is about to realize something they cannot easily ignore. They once believed distance automatically meant the connection had ended. Now they understand distance may have simply hidden what neither of you had fully resolved. And for the first time, instead of asking what everyone else thinks they should do, your soulmate is quietly asking what they actually want. And that question is leading them toward a decision the third party never expected. Your soulmate is beginning to separate outside opinions from their own feelings, and the difference is impossible to ignore. They are remembering who they were around you, what they felt when nobody else was speaking into the situation, and why your memory remained powerful even after so much time. Something huge is waiting for you, because the confession did not make your soulmate forget you, it made them reconsider you. The third party expected relief after finally explaining everything, but instead they saw your soulmate become unusually quiet, almost as though a missing piece had finally fallen into place. Your soulmate now knows that whatever happens next has to come from their own choice. No borrowed opinions. No assumptions. No letting another person define something only the two of you truly experienced. And beneath that realization is one thought growing stronger by the moment: if the past was influenced by someone else, perhaps the future deserves one decision made without anyone standing between you. Your soulmate has not forgotten that thought. In fact, they may already be considering what happens when they finally act on it. What happened after that silence was something the third party never prepared for, because your soulmate didn't argue, didn't defend the past, and didn't immediately reveal what they were thinking. They simply became quiet, and that silence carried more meaning than any reaction could have. Inside their mind, old memories were rearranging themselves. Moments they once dismissed suddenly looked important. Words they had accepted without questioning suddenly sounded different. And then one memory returned stronger than all the others, a moment when your soulmate had been extremely close to choosing you, speaking to you, or finally admitting what they truly felt, but stepped back after listening to someone else. Don't skip, because this memory is about to connect directly to what the third party confessed. Your soulmate realized that the hesitation they once thought belonged entirely to them may have been strengthened by someone who already understood how powerful this connection could become. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because your soulmate is no longer asking whether the third party influenced the connection. They are beginning to understand exactly when that influence changed everything. Then your soulmate asked a question the third party clearly did not expect. If you knew I couldn't forget them, why did you keep telling me to move on? And for a moment, there was no answer. That silence told your soulmate almost everything. Finally, the third party admitted they believed enough distance would eventually make your soulmate stop wondering about you. But instead, the opposite happened. Every attempt to completely close that chapter seemed to create another unanswered question. Every attempt to convince themselves that you were simply part of the past made one specific thought return: then why does this still feel unfinished? Don't skip, because this is wherever your soulmate's perspective changes completely. They started realizing that genuine closure should have brought peace, yet thinking about you continued to stir curiosity, memories, and possibilities they could never fully explain. And suddenly your soulmate understood something surprising. The third party had spent so much time trying to weaken the connection because they themselves had noticed how difficult it was for your soulmate to truly release it. What was meant to make you seem less important accidentally revealed just how important you had been all along. Now your soulmate is standing emotionally somewhere they have never stood before. They have information they didn't have when those earlier decisions were made, and that changes everything. Something huge is waiting for you, because they are beginning to imagine what they might have done differently if nobody had interfered with their understanding of you. They wonder whether they would have spoken sooner. Whether they would have trusted what they felt. Whether the distance between you might never have grown this large. But one thought is becoming stronger than regret: the past cannot be rewritten, but the next choice can still belong entirely to them. Stay till the end, because that realization is creating a completely different energy around their next move. The third party expected their confession to explain why they came between you. Instead, they accidentally removed the very uncertainty that had kept your soulmate standing still. Your soulmate now knows someone else was afraid of what might happen if they followed their feelings toward you, and strangely, that has made them more determined to discover the answer for themselves. Because there is one question they can no longer avoid: what happens if this time, nobody gets to choose between you except the two people actually living this connection? The next realization came so suddenly that even your soulmate wasn't prepared for it. The third party had not only noticed the connection, they had been watching your soulmate's reactions to you far more closely than anyone realized. Every time your name surfaced, every time an old memory returned, every time your soulmate tried to pretend they had completely moved forward, something subtle changed in them. And now the third party finally admitted, that was what made me realize I could never convince you forever. Don't skip, because those words unlocked something enormous. Your soulmate immediately asked what they meant, and the answer was simple but powerful, because whenever nobody was influencing you, you always found your own way back to thinking about them. Suddenly your soulmate understood why certain conversations had always appeared at the exact moments they were becoming curious about you again. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The third party had believed they were protecting their own place in your soulmate's world, but their confession revealed the opposite. Beneath every distraction and every outside opinion, your soulmate's feelings had continued forming their own quiet direction. Then something completely unexpected happened. Your soulmate stopped asking questions about the third party and started asking questions about you. Where are you emotionally now? Do you still remember what happened between you? Would you even listen if they finally explained everything? Those questions mattered because they revealed that your soulmate was no longer trapped entirely in the past. Their attention had shifted toward possibility. Don't skip, because the thought that followed was even bigger. What if they believed I walked away because they weren't enough? That possibility hit your soulmate differently. They began realizing that while they had been surrounded by opinions and uncertainty, you may have only seen their distance. You may never have known how complicated their inner conflict had become. And now your soulmate is imagining what it would mean to finally speak without anyone else interpreting their feelings for them. Not a dramatic promise. Not an impulsive decision. Just truth, direct, clear, and finally their own. Something huge is waiting for you, because for the first time your soulmate is considering that the conversation they avoided might actually be the conversation capable of changing everything, but the biggest revelation was still waiting. Before leaving the conversation, the third party admitted one final thing: I always knew that if you ever talked to them honestly again, my influence would disappear. Your soulmate carried those words away in complete silence. Stay till the end, because this is where everything begins turning. Your soulmate suddenly understood that the third party's greatest concern had never been one memory, one message, or one moment between you. It was the possibility of direct communication, the moment when your soulmate could hear you without another voice standing in the middle. And now that possibility is exactly what they cannot stop thinking about. They are imagining what they would say first. They are wondering whether too much time has passed. They are questioning whether you would recognize the person they have become. Yet beneath every question is one decision becoming clearer. If they ever approach you again, they want the words to belong completely to them. No interference. No borrowed assumptions. No third person defining what happens next. The confession that was supposed to explain why someone came between you may have accidentally created the one thing that person never expected, your soulmate finally wanting to discover the truth directly from you. The moment your soulmate walked away from that conversation, one sentence kept repeating in their mind: if you ever talked to them honestly again, my influence would disappear. And suddenly, everything became clearer. Your soulmate began replaying the moments when they almost contacted you, almost asked the question they had carried for so long, almost trusted what they felt, only to retreat into uncertainty. But this time was different. They finally understood where some of that uncertainty had come from. Don't skip, because this realization created a question powerful enough to change their next move. What would I choose if nobody else knew what I was about to do? That thought stayed with them. They imagined seeing your name again. They imagined hearing your voice without anyone interpreting your words afterward. They imagined finally telling you why everything became so complicated. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because for the first time, your soulmate isn't searching for someone else's approval before deciding what you mean to them. They are searching their own memories, and those memories keep leading back to one person, you. Then another piece fell into place. Your soulmate remembered something the third party had said long before the confession. Eventually, you'll stop wondering about them. At the time, your soulmate wanted to believe it. But now they realized something extraordinary. They never completely stopped wondering. They wondered whether you had misunderstood their silence. They wondered whether you had moved forward believing they simply didn't care. They wondered whether there was still something neither of you had been brave enough to say clearly. Don't skip, because your soulmate has finally recognized the difference between missing the past and needing clarity about it. They don't simply want an old memory back. They want to understand what was real before other voices became louder than their own. And that is why their attention is moving toward you again. Not because somebody told them to return. Not because someone promised them an outcome. But because they finally want an answer that comes directly from the connection itself. Something huge is waiting for you, because the third party's confession removed the easiest excuse your soulmate had used for staying silent, the belief that everything happened exactly as it was supposed to, and now comes the shift nobody around them expected. Your soulmate is quietly preparing themselves for the possibility of one honest conversation with you. They are thinking about the first words carefully, because they know ordinary words cannot explain everything that happened. They don't want to arrive with excuses. They don't want to blame another person for every decision they made. They know their choices still belong to them. But they also know you deserve to understand what was happening behind the distance you could see. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has reached a realization that changes the entire story. The third party may have influenced the separation, but they do not get to control what happens after the truth is known. And that thought has given your soulmate a confidence they didn't have before. The question is no longer whether they still think about you. The question is whether they are finally ready to stop thinking silently and start speaking clearly. Because somewhere inside them, a decision is forming, and this time, nobody else knows about it yet. Before your soulmate makes that decision, something even more unexpected rises to the surface, a detail the third party never intended to reveal. Your soulmate suddenly remembers one particular moment from the past when everything between you seemed ready to change. They had been thinking about reaching out, speaking honestly, and finally discovering whether the connection they felt was something you felt too. Somehow, the third party sensed that shift. And shortly afterward, doubt entered the picture again. Now your soulmate understands why. Don't skip, because this is where the entire story turns in a direction nobody expected. The third party finally admitted that they could see your soulmate becoming emotionally clearer whenever they stopped listening to outside opinions. That clarity frightened them, not because they knew what would happen between you, but because they knew they could no longer control how your soulmate interpreted the connection. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is realizing that the strongest moments between you were often the simplest ones, the moments when nobody else was involved, nobody was explaining what you should feel, and nobody was standing between what happened and what it meant. Those memories are becoming impossible to dismiss now, then your soulmate discovers the most surprising truth of all. The third party had actually expected your connection to disappear naturally with time. They waited. They watched. They assumed distance would do what their words could not. But something kept happening. Your soulmate would hear a familiar phrase and remember you. They would experience something meaningful and wonder what you would have said. They would imagine their future and occasionally find an unanswered space where your story still seemed unfinished. Don't skip, because this doesn't automatically promise a reunion. It reveals something far more important. Your soulmate finally understands that avoiding a question never answered it. For so long, they treated silence as an ending. Now they are recognizing that silence only prevented both of you from knowing what the other person truly understood. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate has begun asking themselves one question repeatedly: if I could speak without fear, without outside influence, and without expecting any particular answer, what would I finally tell them? And the answer forming inside them is becoming clearer every moment. That answer is why the third party's confession may have changed more than anyone realizes. Your soulmate no longer wants another person carrying messages, interpreting intentions, or deciding what should happen between you. If anything is ever said, they want you to hear it directly from them. Stay till the end, because their next realization is the one that could define everything that follows. They cannot change the choice they made then, but they can change how honestly they choose now. They know you may have changed. They know your feelings may be different. They know nothing about the future can be guaranteed. Yet strangely, that uncertainty is no longer stopping them. It is making honesty feel even more important. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. The third party finally revealed why they came between you, expecting the truth to settle an old story. Instead, they handed your soulmate the missing piece that made them question the entire ending. And now, somewhere quietly beyond everyone else's expectations, your soulmate is considering a move that belongs to nobody but them, one honest attempt to discover what happens when the connection between you is finally allowed to speak for itself. Something your soulmate had been avoiding is becoming impossible to ignore now, because after everything the third party admitted, your soulmate went back to the beginning, not physically, but emotionally. They remembered the first moment they realized you were different from everyone else around them. It wasn't something dramatic. It was the strange ease of being understood, the way certain conversations stayed with them, and the feeling that there was always more they wanted to say. Don't skip, because your soulmate has just recognized something they overlooked for far too long. The third party entered the situation after the connection had already begun affecting them. That means nobody created what your soulmate felt about you. Nobody instructed them to remember you. Nobody forced those unanswered questions to remain. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is finally separating what belonged to other people from what belonged to the two of you, and once they do that, one truth remains standing: the connection mattered enough that someone else noticed it before your soulmate fully understood it themselves. But then your soulmate remembers one final conversation from the past, and suddenly another hidden piece becomes clear. There had been a moment when the third party asked an unusually specific question about you, something like, if they came back tomorrow and told you everything, what would you do? Your soulmate had avoided answering. At the time, it seemed like an ordinary question. Now it feels completely different. Don't skip. Your soulmate realizes the third party may have been trying to discover how deeply the door remained open. And the fact that your soulmate couldn't immediately say, "I would feel nothing," may have told the third party everything they needed to know. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate remembers what they felt after that question, not certainty, not an immediate decision, but a powerful curiosity about what you would actually say if you ever had one completely honest conversation. That curiosity never